Hello there everyone, I'm Kanishka back with another tutorial, and today I'm going to show how you can switch to completely programmatic code from storyboards. So almost all of the beginners would have started with storyboards, and as you start working on bigger apps and have advanced skill, you start having programmatic code. And today I'm going to give some essential tips and tricks for working with totally programmatic code. So we're gonna build something like this. So let's go and start coding. So right here, I've already defined a project in Xcode, and we're gonna go ahead and start coding. So the first thing is that we are gonna do all the programmatic like constraining stuff in load view, as it's highly recommendable. And we are also gonna go ahead and call view did load super.view. So the first thing while doing this is we're gonna declare all the elements. So I'm gonna go ahead and call this markup text markup. I'm gonna say declaration. The sensory elements right here. And so what we mail label, that's gonna be a UI label. We're gonna need a password label. That's gonna be a UI label, and we are gonna need a mail text field. I'm gonna say that's a text field, and we are gonna need a password text field too. Okay, and we also need a continue button, like the red button right here. So I'm gonna say war continue button. That's gonna be a UI button. And we also need a header label, like the one here, login to Rosity, something like that. Header title, and that's gonna be a UI label. We need like a forget button thing, like forget password, something like that, a button like that to go and do that. So forget password. Okay, you got that. Now I've declared all the important elements that we're gonna use, and the next thing I'm gonna do is go ahead and style these elements, like the front end part. So I'm gonna say stylize element. For stylizing element, I'm gonna show how we are gonna add this to the view and set layouting. So we can do something like this, but that will be too tedious since we will have a lot of elements. So we have to declare this like 5 to 10 times, and that will be so tedious, and this is not a good developer practice. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna declare an array of all the elements that we want to add. Now I'm gonna call for each right here, and I'll say item in that, and I'm gonna say view.add item. So instead of like declaring 10 or 20 line of code saying view.add subview and like adding each of the element like that will be too tedious, and we're going for each, and that's really beneficial. And before writing any layout code, you gotta go ahead and say item.translate auto resizing mask into constraints equals to false. The default translates auto resizing value is true, and if we don't set it to false, it will take the view will calculate all the constraints by itself, and we don't want that to happen, right? So the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stylize the elements. So right here, we can start by stylizing the header view, the header title. So I'm gonna say header title dot text equals to login. Also, I'm gonna say header title dot, I'm gonna give like the font attribute UI font. I'm gonna do it to like 30, because First thing is that we want a little more for the header text. I'm gonna give it a weight of medium. So here we go. We have given this property. So next thing, I also want that to be, I want the text alignment to be centered. So instead of you are using storyboard in this, there will be a panel at the right, and you would be selecting all the options right there. But when you are coding programmatically, you do it this way. So also I've added this extension right here, which is gonna give us the style like this text field. So now I'm gonna go ahead and give the attribute to the label text field and the button. So let's go for the button first. I'm gonna say continue button dot background color. I want it to be red. And continue button dot set title. I'm gonna say continue. Set the title to continue. And continue button dot. I'm gonna give a attribute to the title label. Font UI like 20, 24. That would be fine. Okay. So right here we have styled the continue button, and the next thing we're gonna do is style the label and the text field. So if you see right here, both of the label have the same attribute. So does the text field. So in an app, when you have like multiple views with the same attribute, instead of decoding each of that differently, I'm gonna go ahead and say mail field, mail label, and password label. For each is a lifesaver function, because it's super easy to give the same attributes to more than one element. Now I'm gonna say label that font equals to U, and I want it to be like 20, 22, and I will also say label that text color equals to gray, as given in this design. So next thing, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and give the text value. So I will say mail label dot text. I want it to be mail address, and I will say password label. Okay. So here we have the text, and the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add the attributes to the text field. So I will say password text field and mail text field. For each, I'm gonna say text field. So again, I'm gonna first give a font property. So if you would be doing this, as I said, in a storyboard, there will be a right panel and you will be defining all the attributes there. But since we are doing it completely programmatically, there are a lot of benefits. Like we can give all the properties like this in one go. So I'm gonna say font size system. I want it to be 20. So next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give a placeholder text. So I will say placeholder. So basically the placeholder is this text given right here in the text field. So here we go. Password label, password text field. And I'm gonna say that mail text field, that placeholder, that's gonna be johnapplec@icloud.com. Okay. We have given attributes to the title, to both of the label, to both of the text field. The last thing we have to do is give the attribute to this forget password. So I'm gonna go ahead and say forget password dot background color. I want it to be clear, and I will set title to like forget password. Yeah, forget password. Okay, here we go. And Next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna the text. I will set the color of the label to the red color. Okay, so we have defined all the elements, and next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and call this function in load view, and it's highly recommendable to do all this front end stuff in the load view. Okay, so next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna align this. So for the rule of thumb, we are gonna give like 4 to 6 attributes to a view, and that's highly recommended. Okay, so before that, I think I forgot to add this special set bottom border. So I'm gonna say text field set. Okay, there we go. So now I'm gonna start giving layout to this. So I'm gonna give the layout to this. So let's go ahead, and I'm gonna start with the button. Let's start from the bottom. So this button is constrained at the bottom. So I will say continue button dot bottom anchor dot constraint. So with launch of iPhone X, and since we have iPhone X, we have to use layout margin guide dot bottom anchor. So it will relate it to the safe area of the iPhone, and I'm gonna set it to like -30. So keep this one thing in mind whenever you are giving like the top and left anchor, you will set the constant to positive, and when we are doing it to the bottom and the right anchor, we will set the constant to negative. This won't make sense as I'm saying, but as I will run the app, you will get a better idea of what I'm trying to say. Also, I'm gonna give an height anchor of around 50 will be fine, and I'm gonna give like the left and right anchor this way, or yeah, left anchor dot constraint. I'm gonna set it to the one thing is we have the leading and trailing anchor and left and right anchor, but it should be like 30 will be fine, and make sure to call is active, otherwise this code won't be executed and you will be wondering why is my code not running. So I'm gonna say view the right anchor -30 and run and see what's going on. Let's see what's gonna happen. So the app is running. It's constrained, and one thing you'll be wondering is why is the background black? So if you are using programmatic code, remember that the default background color is black. So I'm gonna go ahead and set it to white. Okay, it's working fine. And since we have not given a layout to all the text and label is on the top. Okay, this is looking really fine. Now I'm gonna go ahead and as I was saying, here I have given the negative constant. So if I give a positive constant to any of the right or bottom anchor, it will spill out of the screen. Let me show how it works. So I have given a positive anchor of 30, but look, now it's spilling out of the, see, you saw that it was spilling out of the screen. So that's why whenever we are using like a right and bottom anchor, we are gonna use a negative constant. Yeah, like a negative constant like this. So the next thing we are gonna do is we are gonna lay out the title. So I'm gonna say header title, top anchor, constraint u.top anchor. I'm gonna set it to like 60 to the top anchor. And next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give it a height left and right anchor. And as I said earlier, 4 to 6 as a rule of thumb, we give like 4 to 6 anchors. That's totally fine, and it's the ideal situation for any element to be layouted on the screen. anchor dot constraint u dot left anchor. I'm gonna set it to like 50 or 40, and I will also say header title dot right anchor dot constraint. That will be u dot right anchor. Minus 40. That will be fine. Okay. And the last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give like a height anchor frame. I'm like, I think 50 will be fine, or I think 60. 60 will be fine. Now, if I go ahead and run this, it will be layouted at the top. I really enjoy making this video actually. Look, it's layered at the top. I'm really happy for this. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna do is we are gonna lay out the label and the text field as given in this design. Okay, so next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lay out the mail label. I'm gonna say, okay, so as I told earlier, we are gonna give like 4 to 6 anchors as a rule of thumb, because that works totally fine. So now I'm gonna say, left anchor. Before giving writing that tedious line of code, we observe this thing that all of these elements, they are like they have the same left and right property. And since I am a big fan of for each function, I'm gonna go ahead and use left and right anchor for using a for each. So let's talking more coding. Let me show mail label, and I'm gonna say for each item, and I'm gonna say item dot left anchor dot constraint u dot left anchor, and I want it to be like 30 from the screen, from the left side of the screen. And I'm also gonna say right anchor dot constraint that will be like minus 30 equals true. So instead of writing like 5 to 6 line of code saying that all these 4 elements are having the same left and right anchor, I just call the for each function and things are a lot easier. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and run this and it will be automatically given that. Let's see. Okay, so if you, I'm not given the top anchor, but if you see right here in the label, this all thing is given. So what we're gonna do is we will give like a height anchor to that. Height anchor to this. We're gonna say item dot height anchor that constraint that should be like, I think 50 will be fine. 50, yeah, 50. And now the only thing that I have to do is that I have to give the top anchor to each of that. So let's start with the mail address. So label that top anchor, that constraint. I'm gonna say header title, that bottom anchor. And I'm gonna consider it to like 30, 40 away. So now I'm gonna give like a top anchor to the mail text field. I'm gonna say top anchor dot constraint. I will say mail label, that bottom anchor, and I will set it to like 40, 50 to that distance. Now like it's kind of repetitive code, but I'll just go ahead and paste it twice, and I will say that password label and mail text field. Like I will just replace this adjacent elements. Text field. Now I will go ahead and run, and I think it should be running fine this time. You see it's working correctly, unless the only problem is I haven't anchored this correctly. Okay, I should have set this to a negative anchor. Okay, this should be password text field, and this should be password label. That was a problem. Now we'll go ahead and run this, and this should be running fine. Okay, it's working totally fine unless the space between that is too much. Let's go ahead and fix this. I will set that to 30. Yeah, it's working totally fine. Okay, so this is my thing. This is how I did. And one thing is that when you're working on really big apps, you don't have to do like you don't this code will look so tedious and annoying. So as you are working on bigger apps, you won't code everything like that. You can define better extensions. So look, I have made this special extension here and show. Okay, so I have defined this special method layout elements which layouts the whole thing like just by one line of code. Let me show how efficient this function is. So I'm pasting the code right here, and suppose I want to lay out the continue button, and I will just call this layout elements function, this one, and I will give all the elements in wherever I don't want to add it. I will just say no, and you can see it can save you from like 6 lines of code. Okay, so that was my tutorial today. So that was Kanishka, and let me know if you need more tutorials like that. Happy coding, and thanks for watching the tutorial. Hope you have a nice day.